Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. This is The Civil Point with none other than moi, Eriana Dieva. We are back with a brand new episode, and today we are getting into some deep topics regarding homosexuality, LGBTQ plus community, and how the right conservative mafia is trying to once again not only restrict the rights of the LGBTQ plus community, but as well trying to now hurt and abuse children in a harmful way that has been deemed harmful to children. So we're going to go ahead and get into this today. What we are talking about is a Supreme Court case that is being heard currently right now. Arguments are underway, and that is between Chiles v. Salazar. And this court case has big ramifications because it addresses the controversial topic of conversion therapy. What we're going to talk about today is the reason for this case, the facts of this case, as well as who this case benefits, who this case hurts, and see and deconstruct how her argument, which her name, the petitioner is Kaylee Chiles, sorry. We're going to talk about how her argument does not make sense or have a legal merit regarding the ground she's arguing on, which is under the First Amendment, freedom of speech. So we're going to go through a lot of that today because this is an important case. This is an important case for children to be protected from unnecessary trauma and harm. It's a case that also kicks in the door a little bit when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights, identity, and existence. And it's a case that sets precedent for all the states if the conversion therapy ban in Colorado is then nullified. So we have to take this case very seriously because it affects children. It affects all children. Even if a parent suspects that their child could be LGBTQ plus, they can drop them into conversion therapy involuntarily, even under suspicion, and traumatize their kid through erratic and disgusting and horrendous practices that have been sought to eradicate homosexuality from a human being. So we're going to also go through a lot of those topics as well. The methods used for conversion therapy, everything that goes from what Chiles is talking about in her petition to the extremes of it that have happened that we do need to acknowledge that this case can set precedent for to exist in our society to harm children. So isn't it funny, though, that the party, the right-wing conservative religious Christian party, who is all about protecting children and not harming children, are now underway in the Supreme Court arguing that we need to have conversion therapy that has been scientifically proven to harm and traumatize kids. It's the dichotomy. It's the hypocrisy that always exists in the right-wing media, in the right-wing aura, in the right wing of the party. It's sad to see that these people that are touting and running and getting elected off protecting children then get elected and choose to harm children. So let's get into it today. So we're going to be talking about this case. It's Chiles versus Salazar. And it is currently a Supreme Court case that is being heard. Arguments are being heard, and they most likely are going to render a decision and an opinion very soon. I'm very interested to see how this opinion of the court will stack up against previous opinions. So when we talk about this case, Chiles versus Salazar, Kaylee Chiles, a licensed therapist, is suing the state of Colorado, claiming the ban on conversion therapy for minors violates her First Amendment rights. So when we talk about this isn't about religious freedom. It's about control. It's about control of human beings who identify and express themselves through LGBTQ plus means or homosexuality. It's not about protecting children. It's not about taking children out of harm's way. It's about literally disguising harm through faith. And it's really sad to know that there are these evil people that cloak in Christianity and religious doctrine that continue to harm people, take away rights from people, try and eradicate existences from people. And when I talk about Christianity, I always want to make sure that I am being respectful as well, because not all Christians, sorry, almost choked on myself. 1 second. I want to be respectful of Christianity because not all Christians believe what the perverse Christians believe currently. This is what you get when you try and talk. So, yeah, that's why I always try and be respectful, because not all Christians believe the perverse ideologies that American Christianity represents. So I always try and be respectful. So when I respond and refer to Christianity, I mean this perverse Christianity that twists the Bible to manipulate the public's opinions and demonize minority groups of people. I am so sorry. So, when we take a look at the legal history and precedent set by the Supreme Court of the United States, this is what precedent relies on. It creates consistency in our laws, in our opinions, in our states, in our streets, so that way we know how to conduct ourselves in our public environments. So when it comes to precedent, in 2014, it was in June 2014 and May 2017, Scotus, Supreme Court of the United States, declined to hear challenges to California's anti-conversion therapy, effectively upholding its constitutionality. So basically, the Supreme Court has already ruled that they don't want to hear conversion therapy, that it's helpful, that it's beneficial, and that there is no harm done to children. There are precedents that have been set, as well as in May 2015 and February 2016 and April 2019, 3 separate times, Scotus allowed decisions from the Third Circuit Court of Appeals to stand, affirming New Jersey's ban as well. So there is significant precedent set when it comes to conversion therapy and how it is harmful and traumatic for minor children to undergo in any circumstance, whether it's verbal or it could extend to physical. It is not okay for children to undergo conversion therapy in any capacity. So with these precedents and traditions, it's literally a translation that the Supreme Court of the United States does not support conversion therapy. It consistently has allowed and thrived for kids, minors, and adults to express themselves freely as our Constitution entails, as it puts out. So why are we here again? We're here again challenging the rights of LGBTQ plus people and youth because, again, we are using, or not we, but the religion and religious people are using a loophole of freedom of speech that is represented in our Constitution to constitute as inflicting harm against minor children. So what this woman is arguing is that her freedom of speech for religious concerns are being prosecuted and confined because she wants to be able to use her religious speak, her religious voice, her religious text and doctrine to convert voluntary minor children from their natural sexual orientation to an unnatural sexual orientation in themselves. So basically she wants to be able to use her religious doctrine in her medical practices to convert children voluntarily. But let's talk about what this word voluntarily means, because voluntary consent does not exist. She claims that Chiles claims that children can volunteer themselves for conversion therapy. That is not true. Children cannot give consent, especially to actions and practices that they don't know can harm them and cause trauma to them in the future, in their future adult lives. They cannot consent. Hence why children cannot consent, and the age of consent for sex is 18 years old, because they cannot consent to something that could cause trauma to them in their adult lives. Their brains are not fully developed. Their brains are not fully functioning to a capacity to make decisions for themselves, especially when they're not given informed consent of all the possible disadvantages that this therapy can take place and exude when it comes to their later years of formative life. So minors can't give informed consent, and voluntary is a word that should not be used when it comes to children, and specific practices, including practices that can constitute as abuse, they cannot volunteer themselves, and they cannot give consent. So it's over and over again sold and told that courts and medical ethics both recognize that protecting minors overrides claims of consent in harmful practices. So again, right here, right now, Chiles, her argument is deemed unethical because children cannot give consent. Children cannot volunteer for conversion therapy. That's why there is age of consent. That's why there's a coming of age when it comes to certain specifics like sex, like guns. These are impactful moments in lives that could affect children. So that's why there is an age of consent. So now I want to talk about another part of her argument. She claims that her ethical practice is inflicting upon and infringing upon her personal religious practice. I want to be very clear about something here. Very, very clear. The law does not ban faith or religion. The law cannot ban faith and religion. It's protected under the First Amendment, but it does ban harmful conduct under the license of therapy. And using your religious doctrine that has no scientific facts, no scientific background, and has a overwhelmingly negative connotation as well as actual conclusions to conversion therapy, to utilize that as your religious belief and cloak it under your being persecuted from your First Amendment right to preach those beliefs to children who volunteer but cannot volunteer to those practices is harmful. It's harmful. It's harmful conduct. So that's why there are strict guidelines when it comes to the religion and regulation. That's why there's a separation of church and state. That's why there is a separation between religion and medical practices. Because in religion, there's no factual basis for their claims. It's all based on intuition and faith. And you cannot argue with me on that. But when it comes to medical practices and therapy, there is case studies that provide evidence and conclusions that conversion therapy, or reparative therapy, as they want to call it now, is harmful to kids, especially because it is traumatic. So we have to draw the line where religious expression conflates with professional therapeutic practice. They don't go together. One is based off facts and conclusions and case studies and evidence. One is based on intuition and a book that has been rewritten 42,000 times by men who look to oppress certain communities. Let's dictate the facts here. Who are we going to believe? Medical professionals with scientific experience, facts, and conclusions, or a mythical book that can't be verified to any extent, as well as it has thoughts of oppression and practices of oppression throughout it. Let's bring the logic here. Anyway, so when we go on and continue to the overwhelming conclusions, every credible health organization, such as the APA, AMA, and WHO, condemns conversion therapy as unsafe. Religion is a base belief. Therapy is evidence-based. So this is what I just said as well, but I want to make it 100% clear that it is our federal government's job. It is our state's job. It's our local government's job. It's our police's job. As well as right now, the ball is in our Supreme Court. It's their job to defend and protect children right now. Because now we have religious insanity trying to infiltrate the option and give the option to them to harm children through proven conversion therapy that causes trauma. You want to protect children? Then let's protect children and avoid and ban conversion therapy. In 20 states now, conversion therapy is considered harmful. We should take the ideologies of these 20 states and the laws of these 20 states and apply them federally. So, Supreme Court, the ball is in your court to make the correct decision on this one. So, she also claims Kaylee Chiles also claims that her freedom of speech is being infringed upon. But her speech isn't silenced. She has every right, Chiles has every right to practice her religion privately. But she has no right when it comes to medical practices to infringe on some innocent child's mind that they are not natural. They are not supposed to exist in the capacity that comes natural to them. There is absolutely no way that I would let my child sit in a therapist's office and be told that their natural being is not natural in existence. There's no way. But, when it comes to religion, they choose and cloak their religious faith and empathy and compassion for harm. They disguise it as harm. So, when you're a licensed professional, your speech is regulated as part of your conduct. That's why there's ethics boards. That's why there's rules and regulations. That's why there's case studies. That's why there's so many avenues that help protect not only the patients, but the doctor, the physician in these capacities. Because when you mix intuition and disinformation and mythical beings with actual facts, logic, and case studies, it creates a volatile source of disinformation that can provide a really, really toxic environment when it comes to now, say, conversion therapy. Because there is no proof that conversion therapy helps, but there is substantiated proof that conversion therapy does more harm and trauma. So let's listen to the professionals here, correct? And this is my issue right now. Our Supreme Court is so infiltrated. It is completely infiltrated. And there is no consistency when it comes to the Supreme Court, when it comes to precedents. We had Clarence Thomas Clarence Thomas, sorry. The dyslexia of names in my head for a second. We had Clarence Thomas literally state a few weeks ago in a Catholic university that precedent isn't law. Precedent is not gospel. That was his exact words. And this is how I knew he was coming for, and not just him, but the entire Supreme Court was coming for LGBTQ plus individuals. When a sitting justice wants to explain to a Catholic university that precedent is not gospel, he is erratically claiming that he has the right to uphold and uproot precedent that protects people's civil rights, including now attacking children. So when we go into this here, let's just go into a little bit more here. We have to discuss the real harm. I want to discuss the real harm when it comes to conversion therapy. Conversion therapy in general. It increases rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and suicide among LGBTQ plus youth. And when you talk about conversion therapy and the volunteer aspect of it, children can't consent to conversion therapy, but parents will be able to force their child into conversion therapy with no substantiated proof that their child is LGBTQ plus or a homosexual. This is where it becomes very difficult to defend conversion therapy. Because if someone has not told you that they have these feelings for the same sex or same-sex attraction, and you only have your intuition, then you are putting your child in harm's way and abusing your child in the name of the Lord, in the name of your Bible, in the name of your book, all because you think your intuition tells you your child could be homosexual or same-sex attracted. Do you not see how this, if the court rules in favor of Chiles, how this could open the door to a domino effect of child abuse? This is what we have to, again, watch out for. You have to also, when you talk about real harm, you have to look at the statistics. The statistics state that survivors report deep trauma and identity confusion, even more than prior to the conversion therapy. So again, the statistics prove that conversion therapy does not help human beings, does not help minor children adjust their same-sex attraction. And this also constitutes and gives base to the fact that people are born gay, people are born lesbian, people are born bisexual, people are born the rainbow mafia. They are not indoctrinated to be gay. Even though some cases, I would say, there is a possibility, I'm not ruling it out, that trauma can contribute to the thought process of it. I'm not ruling that out. All I'm saying is most people in the LGBTQ plus community are born LGBTQ plus. But there is no room for someone to say that your natural existence as a minor child does not have a right to exist. So this law, the law about a conversion therapy ban, is not about silencing your religious beliefs. It's not about silencing your practices. It's not about silencing anything in regards to Christianity or American Christianity or your views or your beliefs. Conversion therapy ban laws are meant to protect children. It's about saving lives. It's about making sure trauma is not inflicted upon children. So I'm confused for the party, again, that wants to protect children. How are we hearing cases that looks to harm children? Explain it to me. Explain it. So let's talk about the bigger picture here. This case is part of a larger conservative strategy to reframe accountability as oppression. And that is the definition of the right. They don't want accountability. They want to claim the oppressed card. The same logic was used when they opposed racial integration, women's rights, and marriage equality. Not only that, but religious texts justified slavery. Justified slavery, segregation, and the subjugation of entire communities. So you're saying that we need to support and follow a book, a Bible, that is not gospel to most of the world, and is uncovering to most of the world it's not gospel or rule of law that God exists. We're supposed to identify and we're supposed to follow and we're supposed to bow down to a book that promoted these dangerous ideologies of slavery, of misogyny, of racism, of complete and utter just dismissal of human beings? No. So we have to talk about that the faith-based discrimination is being rebranded as religious freedom. And that is where it's dangerous rhetoric. And this is where this case from the Supreme Court is becoming dangerous. That they're hearing these cases that look to demonize sexuality, label same-sex attraction as unnatural, when there are case studies that continuously prove that these aspects of human life are natural. And when we talk from a biological standpoint, we have to say and understand that everyone from a biological standpoint is not the same. So thus gives credence and prudence to the fact that LGBTQ plus activities or same-sex attraction is natural in some human beings. Biology proves it. We're not all the same. If we were all the same, guess what? There would be no health concerns. There will be no true death of atrocious diseases, and we would be able to live a harmonious life. But because biology is different in every human being, we have to understand that we are all different. We all have different wants, needs, sexual desires, and we all need to understand that because of these differences, we have to respect each other. And that's not something that this religious institution of American Christianity is looking to uphold. They don't care about thy neighbor. They don't love thy neighbor. Unless you're a white Christian, you're not a human being in the eyes of these people. So we have to also ask who benefits when harmful practices are protected under the First Amendment. It's not minority communities, it's the people in power, and the people in power are white Christian men. These are the people who benefit off the dismissal and the eradication of existences of groups of people because they want to keep control, they want to keep power, they want to make sure that their bloodline is pure. And this is where white nationalism, especially in the United States, is becoming such a big epidemic and issue and problem that it needs to be contained. And I'm not saying that white people need to be contained, not at all. All I'm saying is your ideologies of white nationalism being an ethnocentric religious persecution of all other human beings is the problem. We want you to have your religion. We just don't want you to force it on everyone or eradicate communities who don't agree with it. That's how America works. It's a melting pot. Respect your neighbor, respect your neighbor's religion, and keep to yourself. Move along. So the pattern is clear. When the power feels threatened, it calls the oppressed faith. That's basically what it is. Oppression is now faith. Oppression is now being able to speak your mind because God tells you to harm people. I actually want to play a clip as well. I don't know where I got it from. I have to look it up again, but I will play it. And it was just such a sick clip. Such a sick clip from let me note this down before I forget here. I believe it was on TikTok. Let me note this down before I forget. Anyway, let's continue on. So I wanted to talk about how this Supreme Court ruling could really change the trajectory of LGBTQ rights and child protections in the United States. I already mentioned the fact that it opens the doorway from verbal to abusive conduct against children who are under suspicion of being LGBTQ+. I want to really hone in on the practices, the sadistic, inhumane practices that this right-wing government is looking to implement on children. They say they want to protect children. They want to protect children from harm and trauma, but they are continuously making moves and solidifying laws and not looking out for the best interest or health or well-being of children. So let's go ahead and look at this domino effect that could potentially happen if the Supreme Court does not uphold decisions and precedent that has been set from the years 2014 to 2017 in regards to California and New Jersey's conversion therapy bans. Because without these precedents, or technically I should say now with these precedents not being gospel according to Clarence Thomas, everything is up in the air when it comes to rights for minority communities, especially the LGBTQ plus community. Again, this is an attack. This is a war. This is a complete and utter destruction and an attempted eradication and potential genocide of LGBTQ plus human beings in the United States, including LGBTQ plus youth. We saw across the pond, across the oceans, that a whole group of people were being killed off in a genocide because of who they were. And we can't allow that to happen here in the United States, on United States soil. This country has so much blood on their hands, so much bastardly and dastardly blood on their hands. We cannot let this continue happening, especially what's going on now with ICE. We cannot allow them to continue hurting children, abducting children out of cars, out of homes, out of beds naked. This is not okay. And anyone who sees this as okay is seriously sadistic, and you need therapy. You need conversion therapy to get some empathy in your body, in your heart. That's who needs conversion therapy. People who don't have empathy. Okay? But let's talk about the domino effect of how this can really affect the future of the LGBTQ plus youth and also just children in general, because it does not apply to just LGBTQ plus youth. If there's any suspicion of a child being homosexual or same-sex attracted, they could throw their child into conversion therapy, label it as volunteer or informed consent, and then eradicate their child through traumatic experiences. Make no mistake, they know exactly what they're doing with this case. They know exactly what they're doing with this case because it's not, again, warships coming in to eradicate people. It's using our justice system to legalize ways first. And then once they legalize ways to hurt people and hurt children, then they can take it a step further. And then once, like I said, my classic saying, when you give an inch, someone will take a mile. And in this case, they will take thousands of miles to hurt children if the Supreme Court doesn't uphold precedent that conversion therapy is harmful, wrong, and bad. And overall, just unjust and inhumane for any human, let alone a minor child, to go through and engage through. It creates so much more trauma for a minor child to go through conversion therapy than for them to just exist in their own body and figure out who the fuck they are. So let's get into the dark history that we can't forget. I made a list of some conversion therapy tactics, and I want to put a warning here because conversion therapy tactics can range from verbal to extremely abusive. So before we go into this, I definitely want to just put a disclaimer up. Anyone that has had traumatic experiences, I may touch on it. So let's understand the dangers that these conversion therapies can exist under. These conversion therapies can promote, and if this legalizes, can take effect in minor children and harm minor children. So let's talk first about the physical labor and punishment. Physical labor as punishment is, of course, not okay in any case when it comes to minor children. This is the most timid, other than verbal conversion therapy. Physical labor would be the most timid of activities that religious institutions would engage in when it comes to conversion therapy. And from here, it kind of gets more extreme. You have assaults and physical restraints. You have food and sleep deprivation, which is insanity. Imagine keeping the lights on a child for 72 hours straight, for a week straight, for 2 weeks straight, where they can't sleep because they're assumed to be same-sex attracted. This is abuse. This is trauma. This is inhumane treatment when you starve someone from food and sleep, especially a minor child. Unsanitary living conditions. Chemical aversion therapy. What this is one of the more sickest practices when it comes to conversion therapy, when they basically throw LGBTQ plus content on a screen, and if a child shows to be aroused by this, then they put chemicals in their body, inject chemicals in their body, and it deteriorates them, it hurts them, and then it makes them associate any LGBTQ plus content or any same-sex attracted content with pain, thus then removing the same-sex attraction, apparently. And this is one of the sicker ones. It's so sick that people have done this to children in the past, and we cannot allow it to happen in the future to children. Electric shock treatments, public humiliation and shaming, ousting and ostracizing from their families, brainwashing, and forced exorcisms. Imagine being a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old child living freely and getting thrown into an exorcism because they believe that you as a human being are just unnatural. The extremes of these practices that these religious institutions will go to eradicate homosexuality is more harmful than allowing someone to just be who they are. That says a fucking lot about your Bible. That says a fucking lot about your God, and it infuriates me that someone could use a Bible that preaches love and acceptance to then hurt a child through a exorcism. It's insanity to me. And then this is the most extreme. And I want to warn anyone before I say it, because it does include some graphic, but corrective grape has been used for conversion therapy. And this is not okay. And this is why I say this decision in the Supreme Court holds weight for a domino effect of decisions throughout the United States that can now, or would be able to, with the precedent set by the Supreme Court in this hearing, in this opinion, could give way to all of these atrocious, harmful, traumatic, abusive practices of conversion therapy. So, and I just want to hold one thing very true. Corrective grape should be a term that should never exist. It should be an action that has never been thought of or taken. Corrective grape, usually against minor girls or women, should never, ever be an action or a thought process or a practice used in an attempt to correct someone's same-sex attraction. And let me remind you that religious institutions have tried this. Let me remind you that. The point is that these may seem extreme. These practices of conversion therapy or reparative therapy may sound extreme. But because they are extreme, because they have existed, because survivors have went through and survived their trauma of these experiences of religious conversion and reparative therapy, because they are so extreme, we have to continue giving a voice to these extremes so that way they don't ever happen again, especially to minor children. And that is the truth, and that is the point. That's the nail I'm hammering home in this podcast. That conversion therapy is way more traumatic than just letting someone be who the fuck they want to be. So it infuriates me. It infuriates me. It infuriates me. It's not about speech. It's not about freedom of speech. It's about power. It's about control. And it's about a movement from religious right-wing psychopaths that look to eradicate communities from existing just because they were born how the fuck they were born. And that's the truth. The hypocrisy is there. It's laid bare. And I want to say that from running on a platform of protecting children from drag queens, from LGBTQ plus people, from immoral doctrine, from books that have LGBTQ plus ideologies, protecting children from all these things the Republicans and Trump ran on, right? Yet they're sitting here giving a pathway to harming children with unsubstantiated facts of their existence. From cutting school lunches, to cutting special education, to punishing schools for not following their agenda for planned education and whitewashing of history, to now allowing children to be traumatized and abused through religious faith is not okay. It's not okay. It's disgusting. Y'all need Jesus, the real Jesus, not the fake Jesus you pray to in your American Christianity. Y'all need real fucking Jesus. So I'm just going to leave it on that. I did want to do this one clip here before I forget. Let me pull it up here. Let me go ahead. I think it was on TikTok because it's just such a sick clip. And it's just really, it was from a pastor or a preacher. Let me go ahead and look at my saves here. I think it's TikTok. Yes, it was. Perfect. So this is why this clip is from Pastor Joel Webbon. He is obviously a right-wing psychopath who believes that we should hurt children, we should marry children. This is what right-wing psychopath Joel Webbon believes. And he also believes that Jesus would allow the killing and abduction of Spanish people and Mexican people through racial biases to be deported and rounded up in vans by ICE. So listen to this. It's psychotic. Let me go get this on here. Here we go. It's on. It's on. It is on. Okay. Let's get this together here.
You're like spitting in his face.
You literally can join ICE and be God's appointed avenger, right? Who seeks to carry out God's vengeance on the evildoer. Immigration is evil. So
immigration is evil. You can be God's avenger against evil immigration. How is that godly? How is a pastor preaching this harmful, inaccurate disinformation and rhetoric when your Bible preaches the love and safety of everyone? Where the fuck in the Bible does it say that immigration is evil? Can someone explain that to me? Like, where in the fuck does the Bible say immigration is evil? Someone explain it to me. Let's continue going.
Join the proper mechanism through ICE and to become, in that sense, God's appointed deacon to carry out vengeance on the evildoer who is devouring the inheritance of the children. That is a righteous thing. You can join ICE today.
Equating, capturing, hunting down, storing individuals in a concentration camp is now righteous in God's eyes. This is why I say there's Christianity and then there's American Christianity. American Christianity is the psychopaths, like this pastor, Joel, Webben. You can be God's avenger, Jesus' savior, if you abduct children, throw them in the back of a van, and deport them. Because guess what? Immigration is evil, according to Joel Webben. Sick.
And make Jesus smile as you with a
Wait. I'm gonna let this play. I'm just gonna let this play because it's just like every second of it gets worse. It gets worse. Like, what the fuck?
And make Jesus smile. You can join ICE today and make Jesus smile as you, with a gun, pack foreigners into the back of a van to be kicked out of the country.
Y'all would have already deported him.
Thank you, potty mouth Pollyanna, for showing this. But, like, do you not see the hypocrisy in this? You can make Jesus smile if you throw immigrants, children, into a back of a van while pointing a gun at their face and deporting them because immigration is evil. Not a pastor using the Bible, Jesus, God himself, to equate the eradication and deportation of individuals, of Mexicans, of Spanish people, racially profiling them and packing them into vans and sending them out of a country. Do y'all not see the issue with this? Like, this is not okay that this rhetoric is being spouted like it's fact. Like Jesus himself came through Pastor Webben and told him that you need to take guns, point them in the face of Mexicans you racially profile, and throw them in the back of vans unsanitarily, naked, with children, and it's okay. In the name of God, in the name of Jesus, you are a fucking avenger. This is sick. This is what's being preached in churches. And if you think this is okay, if you think this is normal, if you think this ideology somehow equates you to be a deacon or an avenger in God's eyes, you are sadly mistaken and you are on the wrong side of history, buddy, because you are going to fucking hell. That is a demon. Joel Webben, this pastor who's preaching this, is a demon. And you know what's so funny? When you question American Christianity, the demon comes out of them. The demon expels out of them like nothing you've ever seen before. And this is why I have always said over the past few years, I don't believe American Christianity is a Christianity that is of the loving kind, of the loving religion, of the respecting, because of these clips like this, like Pastor Joel Webben spouting this garbage and trash and dumpster fire ideologies that if you deport immigrants with a gun to their face and children in unsanitary vans and unmarked vans, that you are now a prophet of Jesus Christ. It's crazy. It's insane, and it's not okay. Anyway, guys, this is the end of the podcast for today. I'm glad I covered this because this is an important Supreme Court decision that needs to be kept an eye on because it is a pathway to leading to child abuse. It is a pathway that leads, and a domino effect that leads to the most extreme circumstances of child conversion therapy, or reparative therapy as they're going to try and rebrand and relabel it. It's not okay for a child to go through any trauma when it comes to conversion therapy. It's not for any child to go through any trauma at all. We should try and protect children, not put them in situations and practices that traumatize them intentionally because of their being and their natural self. It's just not okay. And for a party that wants to protect children, they damn sure are promoting propaganda that hurts children, such as rounding up kids naked in the middle of the night with a gun to their face and throwing them into unmarked ICE vehicles, to now this Supreme Court decision, which is being argued right now, that can make conversion therapy legal in states that then constitute and put children in harm's way of abuse, and to the most extreme practices. I can't even say it. But yeah, let's keep fighting the fight. Remember, Epstein files, we need them out. That's something that, with everything that's thrown at the wall every day, it started to slip my mind a little bit. But Epstein files, Trump is in there, and we know it, and we want every single bit of that information of Donald Trump being involved in it, as well as every other individual that's been involved with Epstein since his disgusting inception of sex trafficking and graping and grossness. But other than that, that is it for tonight. If you guys haven't already, you know what you guys can do. You guys can go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more content and more of my show, The Civil Point with Eriana Dieva. I hope you guys have an amazing night and an amazing start to your week. I know this was a little bit of a heavy topic, but it's something that needs to be thoroughly discussed. And hopefully someone from the Supreme Court sees this video, because they need to understand the effects that conversion therapy has. And they need to show a little bit of empathy and humanity when it comes to fucking children. Please. Have a good night, all. Bye.